From the Corner Office is brought to you by Synovus Bank, championing business growth through trusted relationship-driven banking throughout the Gulf Coast region. Michael Arrieta has led an interesting life for sure. First, he was a top executive for Silicon Valley companies like DocuSign. Later, he took the lessons he learned there to start an investment holding company called Garden City Equity. Garden City has invested in dozens of businesses, including one in Sarasota County, and Michael says his guiding principle is to buy people-first companies. The Business Observer writes often about company culture and what it means to be a people-first company, both in print and online. To read more, subscribe. Go to businessobserverfl.com. Michael, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Mark. Looking forward to it.
All right, Michael, we're going to talk about Garden City Equity and what that is and what your mission is and a connection to Sarasota that you have an entity, a business involved in. We're going to talk about that. But let's get our audience to know you a little bit better first, Michael, with some first ever questions. So what was your first ever job?
First ever job was I made sandwiches, subs. I worked in a sandwich shop and I didn't get promoted yet to make the sandwiches. So I started first having to clean out the toilets and the trash cans and clean out the dishes, everything in the back of the house. I eventually, had that nice promotion to start putting the mayo and the mustard on the buns.
Yeah, so you worked your way up to sandwich maker. Where was this?
This was in Coral Springs, Florida, where I grew up.
Yeah, so you worked your way up sandwiches. And maybe this is related, at that age, we're saving up for cars, right? At least I was when I was a teenager. What was your first car?
Oh, I love that car. It was I forgot the year. It was probably a 1995 Ford Explorer. It was great. It was this maroon color. Every seat on it squeaked when I hit a bump. Some of the windows didn't work. There were stains all over, but boy, did I love that car.
Yes. Were the windows, were the windows power windows?
Oh God, no, definitely not power windows.
I know your kids are younger than mine. We were talking off camera. You have kids that are under 8, and my son is 17. And I recently explained to him the window, the turn window, and he's like mystified that you have to have a car where you have to manually turn the window. That's how old we are.
He's like, and did you have pet real dinosaurs too, Dad?
Yeah, exactly. Right. When I sailed over with Christopher Columbus. Yes. That's our kids. Michael, tell us about the first time, maybe it was college or maybe right after college, the first time you lived on your own. Where was that? And what was that experience like?
Yeah, it was at the University of Alabama. I moved into a dorm there and I just remember being on my own, and I remember that this is what I've always wanted, and it was bittersweet, right? On one side, there was total freedom that, we all want. And then on the other side, there was freedom, right? And there was not being under the supervision or, I would say provision of my parents. And so it was exciting while also scary. And that for about 24 hours. Then I loved the freedom, and then I sprinted from then onwards. And so,
Yes.
It was at Alabama.
Yeah. And you found your way like most of us do. All right. Excellent. Michael, we're going to start, Garden City Equity. Tell us, and then we're going to work into your career as well, because you've done some really interesting things in your career. What is Garden City Equity, and what is your sort of niche and mission in the marketplace?
Sure. Garden City Equity is a people-first holding company that seeks to honor God by building the best holding company in the world where all workers can thrive. What our mission is, which is what we do, is we buy family-owned, founder-owned private companies. We seek to grow them, we seek to hold them, and we want to deliver good returns for our shareholders. And so we do that through raising money. We raise money into a pooled vehicle. We do it every, 3 to 5 years, so we just recently raised $255 million. And once we raise that money, we then go look for companies to buy, companies like the one we own in Sarasota/Tampa. And then once we buy that company, we then grow them through culture, technology, sales, leadership. And then we look to bless the people and also bless our shareholders. And so, pretty simple.
Yeah, simple to say. I would think some of it could be complicated to execute on. Before we get into that part of the execution, tell us about the Sarasota, Tampa, west coast of Florida. What business is that, and kind of what are you guys up to? What with that company in Sarasota?
Yeah, it's called CRA, also stands for commercial uh, uh, commercial residential aluminum, and, they're a pool enclosure, pool cage business. They do all the aluminum enclosures and lanais. They also do gutters and hardscapes and pavers. We're the biggest one in the country. We have all couple hundred in-house team members. A lot of people have known us through the Sarasota, Fort Myers, Tampa region. We really pride ourselves on innovation, on quality, on it lasting, on design. And so we bought that business last year and we're really excited about it. And so we're doing a lot of things in that business to help elevate it and kind of take it to the next decade. So
Yeah.
CRA.
Yeah, so CRA in Sarasota. So, all right, Garden City Equity, you talk about people first mission. I think that goes back to other parts of your career, things you've learned from what I've read. So tell us about, your career, DocuSign. Tell us about that and kind of how you grew to where you were, hey, I'm going to start this Garden City Equity.
Sure. Yeah. I was a early employee at DocuSign, as you stated. And when I joined there, we were a couple dozen people. We were, I don't know, but I don't know the exact number, 50 to 75 people. And we started scaling that company. We scaled that company through hiring great team members. We scaled it through partnering with strategic partners, both domestically and internationally. We raised a lot of capital to help increase the value proposition, all that good stuff that a lot of people now use DocuSign for. And I just remember, Mark, being in Silicon Valley for all those years. And when I would be taking the bus to work every day there in the city, there would be this yearning inside of me of, man, why is it that I'm so obsessed with these simple businesses I can understand, like car washes or dry cleaners or, janitorial companies or whatever it may be. There was just this yearning, even though I was going to work to build a software product that, people can't see or feel or touch, that is being worked on by Stanford, Harvard, blah, 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 MBAs, and the best AI scientists now at the time, like all of that happening. Why was it that my heart kept thinking about these kind of blue collar, simple trade like industries? It's because it's where I came from. Right? My mom and dad both my mom worked in a mall her whole life, and so I would just be walking in and out of the stores at the mall and seeing people move, items from the warehouse into the store and delivery. My dad worked in a furniture store, so he was in the delivery business. He started off selling, flan, the Spanish custard, on street carts in Miami. So it's where I came from, right? It's where I came from. We're kind of these humble roots, nothing white collar. And so I think that as that yearning and that conviction grew, and when DocuSign went public many years later, I had a decision to make. Do I go join another DocuSign and go take another company public? Or do I actually, if money were no object, do I actually follow my conviction, my dream, right, of wanting to employ people like my mother and father, wanting to infuse technologies like that we have maybe at DocuSign into these family-owned, founder-owned companies so that they could really achieve escape velocity, right? And really achieve things that they could never have imagined otherwise. So that was kind of my conviction in going from DocuSign into a completely different space of
Sure.
acquiring trade-like companies.
Yeah. Well, and so you start Garden City Equity, and I love how you kind of talk about people first mission and be, high level. And as we said, execution of that, right? That's what you have to do with these companies. You start with culture. I'm looking at leadership, but what's a good company culture to you, and how do you build good company culture in these organizations?
Oh, yeah, it's probably very similar to if you walk into a hotel or into a house, very quickly, I'm sure you could concur that you kinda know the quality as soon as you walk into a hotel. Like, take off the name, right? It doesn't matter what the name is, or walk into a house and you know if it's a quick spec house that they built in 30 days or if it's a long custom house. You just feel it, you see it, you smell it, you know it. And so when we look at buying businesses, we look at over 800 businesses per year, same sort of thing. You immediately know, is this a culture that they care about their people? And if it is, now we have something to work with, right? Now we could actually, pour gasoline onto that fire. And so what it is that we look for are companies that already have good cultures, but that we could really make exceptional, right? We want to create raving fans. We want to impact these workers so that if we impact them, we're actually impacting their spouses, their kids, and the entire lineage and their generation from then onwards. So we look at it as a multi-generational blessing for these team members. So what do we do, right? Like, what do we do? Well, the first thing people want is they want a place of purpose and belonging. It's the number one thing. It's the number one thing that you want at where you work. It's the number one thing that everyone that's listening to this podcast, either they want if they work at that company or the founders, CEOs, executives want for their people is a place of purpose and belonging. So how do you then give a place of purpose and belonging? Well, you have to get to know the people and clarity is kindness and communication is kindness. And so the first thing that sounds really easy is you need to start communicating with your people. You start doing monthly town halls. You need to start saying, "Hey guys, here's what happened this month. Here's what sales looks like. Here's who we hired. Here's what they're going to do. Here's a customer we won. Here's a customer we lost. Here's something that went well with safety. Here's something that went bad with safety. Here's some new announcements, right? This is what it means to you. This is we don't like surprises." As soon as you do that, they say, "You're sharing information with me. You're not keeping me in the dark. You're giving me a place of belonging." Right. And then we also call them to a higher standard of purpose, saying, "Hey, we wanna build the best aluminum company in the world. We're already the biggest in the country, right, in terms of pool enclosures and outdoor enclosures, but we wanna build the best one in the world." You wanna elevate yourself to that sort of purpose of being a person that works and achieves to be part of the best outdoor pool enclosure, the best aluminum company on planet Earth. So you're giving them now purpose that you're inviting them into. The second thing that they want is their voice to be heard. That's the second thing, which then comes with actually instituting, HR policies. Hey, is there an open door policy? Do they have one-on-ones? Do they have performance reviews? Do they have career pathing? Do you give them a clear career ladder to say, "Hey, right now you're a sheet metal worker, and then you be a fabricator, and then you could be an installer, and then you could be a supervisor." Are you giving them that clear path that you say, "If you do X, Y, and Z, here's the rubric and here's a path. It's up to you." Right? So do they have the clarity of their voice being heard and what's in it for them? And then lastly, number 3 is we would say that you absolutely do need to give a livable and fair wage and benefits, right? It's just fact, right? It's not minimum wage, it's a livable wage. So you can't just say the minimum wage of the state is X. You need to see like, hey, if we own a business, we own a business in South Florida that is not in Coral Gables or Key Biscayne or Miami, it's west more in Miramar. If we owned a business in Miami instead of Miramar, we shouldn't be giving the same wage. We should actually take into effect what does livable wage mean? And then if we can't get there, there's probably something wrong with our pricing.
Yeah.
I get where I'm going. So these are the things we think about is purpose and belonging, all right, is number 1, a place of their voice being heard, and number 3 is compensation and benefits and what's in it for them that they actually take home.
Yeah, that's really great. A lot to sort of unwind there. One thing you said I wanted you to go back to, clarity is kindness. I love that phrase. I've used that a little bit at the Observer Media Group with our team. Uh, Clarity is what we try to provide our readers with our stories, but when you're working with your employees, clarity is kindness. What does that mean to you? Clarity is kindness.
Yeah, it means that if you wanna value people and you want people to come along on the journey, people support what they help create. People support what they help create. If you want your team to support where it is that you're going, you must bring them in to help create it. And the only way to help them create it by giving them clarity. If I want you to help support a home that I'm going to build and that's the ultimate goal, well, I need to bring you in to help create it. In order for me to bring you in to help create it, I need to give you clarity. I need to give you clarity of what the plans are. I need to give you clarity of how we bought the property, clarity of what the timeline is, clarity of what the budget is. Otherwise, you can't help me create it. And if you don't help me create it, you're never going to help me support it. And what we, for some reason, believe in business is just saying, like, the house is going to be built. Don't worry about how it's going to be built. And I need you to get behind it. I need you to support this. Why are you guys not supporting this? Why is everyone not rallying behind this? Is because A, you didn't bring us into it. And B, you never told us the details and the clarity behind it. And so that's where it like, you got to go to the root cause of something to know how it's going to bear fruit ultimately.
Yeah. Yeah, all right, so when you talk about leadership, these organizations, companies that you buy, you're obviously meeting with their leaders, and so you're sizing them up, or you're getting to know them, the management, and talk about Silicon Valley. what sort of made you what experiences or people, mentors made you the leader you are today? You know, what are one or two things that stand out that you've learned along the way that made you the leader you are?
Yeah, I would think 2 things. One is personally and 2 is professionally. I have a couple personal mentors that come to mind that what they have taught me is to be a good leader, you must be a servant. All right. And it's an upside down pyramid, actually. The organization is not here to serve me. I'm serve the organization. Right. And so what does that mean? It's love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, right? It's all these fruits that if I resemble as a leader and I serve my people with love, with joy, with kindness, with goodness, with faithfulness, self-control, gentleness, if I get served them with those sort of attributes, right? They will feel valued and they will run through a brick wall to help us accomplish what it is that we're trying to do. So I've had some dear, dear personal mentors of mine that has helped me realize that you lead with vulnerability. People come to respect you based on your accomplishments, but people come to love you based on your vulnerabilities. So I tend to lead as a vulnerable, authentic leader, knowing that I don't know all the answers, knowing that I have more issues and more fears than I do of strengths, and I lead with that. And then so that's how it's got me here on my personal side. On my professional side, prior I had 2 roles of being the chief of staff for 2 different multi-billion dollar CEOs, right? And they taught me various things. The biggest thing that they taught me is that the job of a CEO is to always think about what's coming next, right? Always think about what's coming down the hopper, what's coming next, what are the threats that are coming down, what are the things that are going well that could be going better, what are the competitors doing? Think about strategic partnerships. Probably a couple tactical things that I've learned that really have impacted us today is at DocuSign, our chairman and CEO, who I worked for, he told me, Michael, well, the reason we're gonna win is we're gonna integrate fi our financing equity raise strategy into our corporate go-to-market strategy. I said, "What in the world does that mean?" He goes, "Everyone raises money from anyone they could raise money from, and those people are not gonna help them on their go-to-market. What we're gonna do at DocuSign is we're gonna raise money from Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, SAP." You get where I'm going with this. And after we raise money from them, let me ask you something. Do you think they're gonna email us when we ask them to be a customer? Do you think they're gonna quickly connect us when we ask them if they could resell our product? Do you think they're gonna you get where I'm going with it? Of course they are, because they're now on the equity cap table, right? It's genius. You're integrating your strategic investors into your go-to-market. So that's something we did. If you look at all of our shareholders, if you go to our website, gardencityequity.com, we have 200 shareholders, right? We have Fortune 100 CEOs, we have small business owners, we have finance guys, we have technology CEOs, we have governors, we have senators, we have athletes, we have celebrities. We have them across every single.
You got some pretty big wigs on your list there of
We
people.
absolutely do. And we use them and utilize them and leverage them as we should in all of our businesses
Yeah,
nonstop. Right. So that's a good lesson I learned.
yeah. Yeah, you talked about vulnerability as a leader. That comes up a decent amount of times on the From the Corner Office podcast. Is there an example you can share that you were vulnerable as a leader? 'Cause by definition, that could be challenging, right? As a leader, maybe you admitted you were wrong, you admitted something, you were vulnerable in some way. Is there an example, whether DocuSign or another point in your career, that you were vulnerable?
I mean, every single day, yes. We own a business in Orlando, an air conditioning business, and at Westbrook, that's named Westbrook's board meeting, we went around and shared what was good and bad. And the first thing there was a lot of good, but the part of improvement was, hey, we didn't do a good job the first year partnering with you at knowing exactly how we could add value. We didn't do a good job at figuring out what the exact KPIs were. We still didn't understand the whole construction side versus a service side. We tried different versions of it and we used a lot of your energy and power to try to get that right. And we apologize for that. Like, we're learning this. We're learning this business. It's our first time in HVAC, so we don't really know it. So thank you for the patience there because we used a lot of time, energy, and effort of you guys, right? Or our team, right? I was working out of Jupiter, Florida for the last many years. My team was in Charlotte, right? And I realized late in Q4 that, man, this is like, I can't go raise $250 million and then have my team here and have me there. And so I sat down with the team and I said, "That's my mistake. I should have been here the entire time. I was trying to be with my family. I was trying to do what's best for my family while realizing that at the same time, I was sacrificing that you guys needed me as a leader here. And I apologize for that. And I thank you guys for operating there without me. But I'm going to move the family here, and that's on me. And I will make that better." Right. And so I mean, the stories are countless. And if I speak to you this afternoon, I can tell you 5 more that probably happened after we hang up.
What I wonder what the I'm curious as to what the reaction was to that, because in some circles, you might be kicked out of the CEO club, right? "Wait, Michael, you've just admitted that you should have been doing X while you were doing," like, what was the reaction to these other board members or other people that were involved?
Like, I call it the gun show. I always call it the gun show of whenever you meet people, regardless if they're investors or CEOs or you're whatever it is, people always have guns up to one another, metaphorically speaking. And people desperately want to be raw, honest, and authentic. Desperately. They just wanna be their true authentic self. Kinda the self that you put on in front of your wife when no one's around, right? That sort of self. Or maybe the self you put on in front of your brother or sister that you have nothing to prove, right? People desperately want that. And so why is it that we turn that on just with those that we feel closest to? The why? Because we're scared we're gonna be judged? Because we're scared that we're gonna be denied, we're scared that we're gonna be not accepted, and so in the gun show, I'm the first one that always seeks to put my gun down. I lead with vulnerability because I don't know all the answers, but what I can say and what they do know is, am I giving it my best? Am I giving it my best, right? And so that's what matters, and between us, Mark, my audience is not my portfolio CEOs. My audience is not my shareholders, right? That's not who my audience is. My audience is honestly God, and I report to myself of a high standard I have for myself, right? Of being humble, of being hungry, and giving it my best, right? And as long as I can do that, I'm happy to be vulnerable and share where I've fallen short. And what I've seen is that's what draws people in the most.
Yeah, 100%. And so on that sort of front, we're talking these big picture things. What's a legacy, Michael, you'd want to leave? What would you want people to say about you as a leader, as a father, as a husband, as a human? What would you want people to say about you years and years from now?
Yeah, great question. The number one thing that I'm not doing a good job at, I feel, is he was utterly present and engaged with his family and young kids, right? And that's a hard one. That's a really hard one. One of my mentors, the former CEO of Intel, wrote a book called The Juggling Act, and it's how do you juggle all this stuff, right? And you're called into a position of leadership. You're called in a position of managing hundreds to thousands of people and hundreds of millions of capital and all this stuff. And how do you manage that while being a good steward of your family? Right. And so the number one thing, Mark, that I want people to say of me is, and although that he was a good business guy, and although that he was a good private equity fund manager, and he delivered good return to his investors, and he blessed his people well. More important than any of that, I, I'm really blown away with what a present and engaged father and husband that he is. That would want to be my legacy. All the other stuff, as we've all read, it all melts away. It all fades away. No one's going to know our names 2 generations from now. Our grandchildren, our great grandchildren, never will, for the most part. And so, really, what matters is the love that you leave behind. That's the lineage that carries on.
Love that. And as we talked off camera, Michael, we're recording this in mid-March, and you're off to your son's school to celebrate his 7-year-old's birthday with cupcakes. How awesome is that? So you're getting an A for today. Love it. Uh,
Thank you.
Michael, one last question. Going back to Garden City Equity, again, we're here in spring, so we're getting into the sort of the end of the first quarter. What are you looking forward to? What's top of mind? What are you excited about the rest of, say, the calendar year, or really going into summer for Garden City Equity?
I'm excited about a lot. I mean, we just raised, as I mentioned, 255 million that we have the opportunity to go and deploy. So we have the privilege, if we want to find more companies like CRA, the pool enclosure company, more opportunities to go buy large businesses like that, right? These founders that have been running these companies for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years that are saying, hey, I'm at the retirement age but I got to do something with my business. I don't have a son or daughter to take it over. They're not in the business. I can't just give it to my employees. That's not good stewardship. But I truly care what happens next. And I want to find a partner that will even maybe come alongside me to buy the majority or the minority and help me steward this thing. And so really excited to go find what are the next 5 to 7 companies we're going to go acquire. The other thing I'm really excited about that I'm spending a lot of time in is figuring out what is AI going to do. I'm spending a ton of time on this front of what is AI going to do. And Anthropic, they released a chart that shows the industries that are going to be most impacted by AI and the ones that are not. And fortunately for us, the businesses that are more so physical trade like, right? Like pool enclosures or air conditioning, et cetera, they will not be as impacted. Some of the internal G&A operations obviously could be streamlined, impacted, automated with agentic AI and agents in the future. But at the end of the day, until we get to the part of robots, right? You do need people to cut the fabric. You do need people to go cut the screens and build the pool cages, right?
100%.
And so that's what I'm most looking at is how do we start deploying AI in certain functions and ways to further enable our customer experience and employee experience while buying companies. And so it's kind of a juggling act. I don't want to go buy industries that are going to be totally disrupted by AI and quite honestly not exist. Right. Because I think there'll be many of those. Right. If you tell me go buy a travel agency, I'm going to say, no, thank you. Right. I don't know last time you used ChatGPT, but it's doing just about everything for me that a travel agent would, you know? Pretty soon they're gonna release a button that I click and it's connected to my loyalist accounts and it's gonna quickly check me out and it's gonna have so much better data on saying, "Oh, you wanna go to Iceland, you wanna be there for 3 days, and I know the exact hotels you'd like to stay in." So versus industries of, "Hey, we're gonna go into septic repair companies or the companies that clean out the cell phone towers because the bird nest up there." Things like that I'm saying, I wanna go after that while looking how do we actually integrate AI. So those are the things I'm looking at and also looking at some pretty innovative ways that we could radically bless our team members. I give only 10% of all of our profits to our foundation, our 501(c)(3), and we use those, donate that giving the 10% of our profits, we use that to bless certain nonprofits and our frontline workers. And so we're looking at a lot of different ways. So I would say is that new companies, AI, and blessing our team members.
All right, when you get AI figured out, will you come back on the podcast and explain it all to us?
Yeah,
Uh,
well, I guess I'll never be back on because
yes.
I don't think there's any. I'll have to ask AI how I actually become a master at AI.
I mean, I did, we talked earlier about, the old guy that I am with my son, but to your point, I was driving him to school the other day and we passed a house that's getting a new pool cage in our neighborhood. And we saw a guy with a wheelbarrow pushing the gear, the tools to the back. And I did say to my son, Aaron, that's a job that AI can never do right there. That guy right there.
You absolutely nailed it,
Right.
you absolutely nailed it, and that is, Mark, it's coming like more than a tsunami, like,
Yeah.
more
100%.
than a
Absolutely.
tsunami, faster than a freight train, it'll be 27x stronger by the end of this year, if you could just wrap your mind around that. ChatGPT has over 300 million daily users already. They have over 900 million weekly, right? They haven't even turned on their ad revenue. They haven't turned on their e-commerce engine. They haven't turned on their hardware engine. And, rumor shows tens of billions of revenue already,
Oh,
faster than
yeah.
Amazon and Meta, faster than any of those companies. It's coming
Yeah.
like a freight train.
Yeah. Well, Michael Arrieta, CEO and founder of Garden City Equity, thank you so much for joining us on From the Corner Office podcast.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for listening to the Business Observer From the Corner Office podcast. I'm your host, Mark Gordon. This podcast was produced by Reed Corley of the Corley Company in Sarasota. To hear more episodes of From the Corner Office podcast, go to businessobserverfl.com.